Today on r/PettyRevenge, a landlord Karen loses her cushy deal and a wedding flirt gets iced out. Here we go.
Try to drive me out of my rental house? How does getting your rent doubled and getting fired sound? Years ago, I rented a duplex from a very nice owner. He was honest and reasonable. I put a healthy security deposit down and moved in. Unfortunately, he was not my day-to-day contact. That was the delightful and charming Giselle. She was the on-site landlord. I found out later that she was a tenant who the owner made an arrangement with. In return for cutting her rent in half, a sweet gig, she collected and deposited the rental checks, arranged repairs, and handled any other day-to-day things. The neighborhood had about 5 duplexes owned by this man. Giselle hated me from day one. And what's more, she lived in the other half of the duplex. You know all the nightmare petty landlord stuff you see on this sub? Giselle ticked off all the boxes. HOA-style Karen, obsessed with the rules. Yelled at my friends for parking an inch over on her side of the duplex. My phone or doorbell rang if my place wasn't stone quiet a minute after quiet time. Rental checks I dropped in the same mail slot I always did somehow got lost. Appliances and things not fixed in anything resembling a timely manner, etc. It was more annoying than awful. I told myself I could live with it as I was going to be moving closer to my job after my lease ran out. Later, I found out why she hated me. She had wanted a friend of hers to move into the duplex I got, but the owner said no because her friend's credit check was awful and mine was sparkling. So she just wanted to make my life miserable out of pure spite. As the end of the lease drew closer, I noticed my water heater was leaking. I dried the floor around it and then put some towels down. Then I emailed Giselle. I had wised up and started a digital trail by then. No response. A week later, I re-forwarded the email with a friendly, "You may have missed this, but this could be a real problem." No response. Another email with, "I had a friend who was a plumber look at it and he recommended immediately." Finally, she responded with, "I will look into it." And nothing else. She was just trying to run the clock out on me. It had been about a month now, and I was just a few weeks away from moving out. I saw Giselle watering her flowers and approached her and mentioned it. She blew me off, but finished the convo with the threat, "I hope you're keeping it clean around there. I'm a stickler when it comes to the final inspection. If you want to get any of your deposit back, you better be ready to pass a white glove inspection." Okay then, that's how we're going to play it? Fine. I was trying to figure out how I would get petty revenge. About a week later, right before my last rent check was due, I happened to see the owner in the neighborhood, and Giselle was nowhere to be found. And that's when it struck me how I could make all this work. I went out to say hello and tell him thanks for renting to me, that I appreciated it. He was very friendly, said he was sorry I was leaving, etc. And if I needed anything, to let him know. Checkmate. I asked him if he had a few minutes to come in and do the security deposit inspection. He said sure, and we went into my place together. As we were walking around looking at things, he was all positive. Yep, looks great. Yep, no issues there. Then we came to the water heater. I paused dramatically and gravely said, "I hope we can come to some kind of understanding about the floor around the water heater." I opened the closet doors and showed him. I told him what I'd been doing to fight the leak. I pulled up the sopping wet towels I had put down the night before, and I told him I had experience with mold and that it's nasty stuff. He got quiet and said, "Have you told Giselle about this?" Why, yes, I did. And here are copies of the emails I sent to her. He read them and then noticed I had kept them in a file folder. He looked at me and said, "Are there other things that haven't been fixed?" I showed him a few other emails I had collected. He got beet red in the face and said, "Okay, I think with what I have seen, I'm fine with releasing your full security deposit." In that moment, it struck me. I had one more rent check due, $750. How about instead of me writing you a check for $750 and you writing me a check for $500, I just write you a check for $250 and call it even? He shrugged and said sure. He signed the paperwork and then left. A few days later, I dropped my check for $250 in the mail slot. Later that evening, Giselle pounded on my door, foaming at the mouth about how I didn't write a full check. She can get me evicted if I don't write a check for the full amount right freaking now. I explained, conveniently omitting that the owner had done the inspection, that $750 minus my security deposit of $500 was the $250. Giselle's eyes widened as her brain tried to comprehend what I had said. She nearly exploded, yelling at me about that's not how things are done. You have to obey the rules like everyone else, and she has final say because she does the inspections. Friends, she literally had spittle flying out of her mouth. She was so enraged. I calmly told her that the owner had done the inspection and signed off on the payment arrangement, and told her to talk to him and to get off my porch and quit bothering me. And I very slowly closed the door on her. Again, her brain froze, and she went into lockdown trying to process what I had just said. That was an image I'll never forget. Before I moved out, the owner came by to ask if he could come in and fix the water heater for the next tenant. I said sure. As he was working, we talked a little, and he mentioned that his daughter was moving into my place and that she was going to take over the on-site landlord duties. I asked about Giselle. The owner simply said she's going to be moving out. She decided she couldn't afford to pay the full rent anymore.
Wow. Imagine being so power hungry you try to scam someone out of their own deposit and instead you lose your discount rent and your landlord gig. That's not just karma, that's eviction level karma. Chef's kiss. Honestly, her standing there with spit flying while OP calmly closed the door, I can picture it like a meme. I've dealt with rule-obsessed Karens before, but this one went full mini dictator of the duplex, and it still didn't save her. I love how OP didn't even have to raise their voice. Just receipts, calm logic, and boom, landlord's daughter moves in, Karen moves out. Actions meet consequences, folks. And speaking of consequences, up next we've got a wedding guest who thought she could flirt with the groom and still get special treatment. Let's just say she ended up with a chocolate-flavored surprise.
Mildly inconveniencing wedding guest who wants to flirt with my fiancé. This is petty and stupid. I would have liked to think I'm a bigger person than this, but it seems it's not the case. Guess I'm in the right place to share my little confession. I, early 30s female, am marrying my fiancé this week, early 30s male. He's the most wonderful and amazing person in the universe, but he's also extremely oblivious, socially awkward, probably on the autism spectrum. Boy just cannot pick a hint. He works with a relatively small group of people, and they get along great. They usually go for after-office drinks one Friday a month. Since we moved across the country a couple years ago, we haven't made a lot of new friends. So basically these coworkers are currently my fiancé's closest group of friends. There's one girl in this group, let's call her Daisy, late 30s female, who has an evident massive crush on my fiancé. I must say I don't blame her. My fiancé is in tech and makes good money, wicked smart, tall, attractive, nice, funny, interesting, and sweet. She has great taste in men. I've been part of a few of their get-togethers, and this woman acts like a teen girl with him. She giggles and literally twirls her hair. Whenever she laughs, she puts her hand on his arm, once even his knee, always tries to sit right next to him, etc. When I pointed it out, he said he hadn't realized, then made a face like gross and said, "I'll make sure to sit away from her." Before anyone does the Reddit thing, no, he's not cheating on me or into her or secretly encouraging it. We both work from home, we spend all day together, every day. I have full access to his phone, accounts, am friends with some of the other people who join those monthly after-office drinks. They've never met without several other people joining, etc. My fiancé is also extremely loyal. He doesn't do the typical things of following random women on Instagram. He's always talking about me. He doesn't like attention, doesn't like strangers touching him. I actually saw him lean away when she sat next to him and straight up jerk away when she touched his knee. Additionally, he adores me. I even feel silly having to justify his loyalty, but I know how Reddit is. This man bakes me cookies and brushes my hair when I'm sad. He's a saint. Anyways, our wedding is very soon. It'll be a small, intimate thing, only 35 people or so. We have a few gluten-intolerant guests, including Daisy, so we're doing cake for everyone and special gluten-free cupcakes for these guests. This place, however, only has 2 cupcake flavors, chocolate or caramel. We asked each guest which flavor they'd prefer, and they all said chocolate, except for Daisy, who asked for caramel. She doesn't like chocolate and never eats it. I know she's not allergic or intolerant. I checked and got a list of all her allergies when we confirmed her meal for our joint bachelor and bachelorette party. I was about to place the order when I received a text. Long story short, I found out that Daisy was planning on wearing white to the wedding, and her plus one friend, another girl, was going to wear beige. Of course, I went to tell my fiancé, and he said, "What a jerk," and nipped that in the bud immediately. He straight up told them it was super rude, and that if they showed up wearing white, beige, cream, ivory, bone, super light pastels, very light gray, any other overly complicated way of saying white, they would not be let in. Daisy complained that it was just a white blouse, I'll wear peach pants, and he told her, no white at all, of any shade, anywhere. You're being rude to even consider it. The dress code is wear whatever you want except white. You can show up in flip-flops if you want. Why would you want to wear the one thing that's not allowed? She pouted, said her +1 was sad because she only looks good in light beige. But all right. He considered uninviting her, but I told him not to, or it could cause drama with the rest of the friend group. We'll make sure the guard at the gate won't let her in if she's wearing anything too light, and my friends all volunteered to shower her in red wine if she dares. I'm also overall a very chill person. If she actually showed up wearing white, I'd laugh my head off. She'd be shaming herself in public. Anyways, I went back to placing the cupcake order and just asked for all chocolate cupcakes. I guess it just slipped my mind to order a caramel one. Oops. Oh well. Who doesn't love chocolate anyway?
I've got to say, nothing warms my heart like petty wedding revenge. Daisy tried the classic, I'll wear white and maybe steal some attention move. And what does she get? No caramel, just chocolate. And the best part? Everyone else loved it, so she's the only one sitting there pouting at a cupcake. That's not just petty, that's deliciously petty. Mwah. Honestly, OP's restraint is impressive. I'd have been tempted to hand her a full sheet cake of chocolate just to drive the point home. But subtle works too. It's the kind of revenge you savor like frosting. Anyway, that's it for today's stories. Which one hit you the hardest? The landlord Karen who lost her cushy deal? Or the wedding guest who got stuck with chocolate? Tell me in the comments. I'll be reading. And that's the end of today's r/Petty Revenge Tales. Proof that you don't need to go big, just penny enough to feel amazing. If you loved the low-key vengeance, give that thumbs up button a little love. Drop your favorite moment in the comments. I want to hear your pettiest win too. And if you're not subscribed yet, seriously, don't make me plot revenge. Click subscribe, ring that bell, and I'll see you in the next one, where karma's always caffeinated.